So, are you intrigued by background checks? I get it. It's gotten really big lately, like something you'd see in a detective movie.
Yeah, it's a booming industry.
But before you go full on Sherlock, let's
Huh?
break down what it really takes to make a successful business out of it, background investigations and all that.
You're totally right. The industry's blowing up. I mean, we're looking at a market that hit like, what, $2.8 billion back in 2020. And projections are saying it'll hit 4.1 billion by 2032.
Whoa, hold on. So that's a 3.2% growth rate? Huge.
Exactly. And it's all driven by stuff we see every day. Remote work on the rise, more security concerns, and frankly, people just need to be more careful, do their homework in this digital world.
Okay, that's a massive jump. Definitely not a small time game anymore. But when we say background check business, what are we even talking about these days? Like, is it still all about digging up those old criminal
Oh,
records?
not even close. It's way broader now.
Real.
We're talking making sure employment histories check out, education verification, even diving into social media.
Yeah.
And get this, it's not just about looking into individuals.
No.
Nope. Businesses use this stuff too to figure out who they're partnering with or even their competition.
Ooh, corporate espionage. That's kind of cool.
It's like corporate due diligence, but with a little more, intrigue.
I like it. But I bet you need some serious tech for all this, right? No
Right.
more of that magnifying glass and dusty file cabinet stuff.
You're going to need more than a detective hat and trench coat for this.
Yeah.
We're talking software, specialized databases for those public records, tools to look into social media. It gets pricey too.
Yes.
Some of that software can run you upwards of $200 a month.
Wow.
And then there's the hardware, GPS trackers. Believe it or not, even good old binoculars still come in handy.
So some things never go out of style. So there's
Mhm.
still actual field work. This is getting more intense and expensive sounding than I thought.
And we haven't even gotten to the legalities of it all.
Oh, right.
That's the heart of it for anyone who's serious about this business.
Right, because it's not enough just to find the information. You got to know how to handle it legally, responsibly.
Exactly. You've got your big one, the Fair Credit Reporting Act, the FCRA. It basically controls how you use and report on consumer info. And this applies even if background checks are just a part of your business, not the whole thing.
Got
And then, if any of this data involves people from the EU, well, hello GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation.
right. I've heard of that one.
Super strict rules on how you gather and handle personal data. And here's the kicker. Those rules, they apply to U.S. companies too if they're dealing with data from EU citizens.
Oh, wow. International laws.
Right.
So it's not just about knowing where to look. It's also about those legal lines you can't cross.
Exactly. This isn't something you can just wing. You got to have a solid foundation right from the get-go.
Okay, so background checks aren't for those who get nervous about legal stuff.
That's one way to put it.
But let's say we've got the legal side down pat. How do we even make a name for ourselves in this booming industry? Do we try to be the one-stop shop for all things background checks?
It's more strategic than that.
Oh.
Think about it. You're in a packed market. Everyone's doing it.
Hmm.
What makes you stand out?
Right.
Specialization. It's key. The article really hammered that home. Specialize. What type of background check are you the go-to for? It just makes sense. You build up that deep knowledge in a specific area, you attract the right clients, and bam, you're not just another face in the crowd.
So instead of being a jack of all trades, we become like the master of one. I like that. Can you give us some examples of these like background check specialties?
Of course. One big one is pre-employment screening, making sure a potential hire's work history and qualifications are legit. Huge demand for that now with so many companies hiring remotely.
Yeah, makes sense.
Then you've got tenant background checks. Landlords need that to make sure they're getting responsible renters. And let's not forget about the corporate world. Big companies, they hire investigators to do their due diligence before any mergers or big partnerships. It's all about managing risk, making those smart decisions.
That makes a lot of sense. It's just like any other business. The more specialized you are, the more valuable you become to a specific type of client.
Exactly. And as you really dive deep into your niche, you can offer more tailored services. You build a brand that screams expert and, just as importantly, trustworthy.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've zeroed in on our niche, we're brushed up on the legal stuff, and we're feeling good about navigating the tech. But what about the actual investigation work? Is it a lone wolf game, or are we talking like assembling a team?
Even with all the tech out there, this is still a people-driven business.
Interesting.
And that means having the right people on your team.
Right, of course. Makes sense.
You need skilled investigators, people who catch those tiny details, who can analyze like nobody's business. and who are absolutely committed to ethical conduct no matter what.
So they're not just good at digging up info, but also handling it with, like, care and integrity. Important combination.
Absolutely. And finding those people, that's just step one. The article really emphasized ongoing training, too.
So even the seasoned pros, they've got to keep learning. What's that tell us about this industry?
It tells us this isn't a field where you can just coast on what you already know.
Right. Keep up.
New tech pops up all the time. Regulations change. Best practices evolve. You've got to be constantly learning to stay ahead of the game, to be the best for your clients.
Right. You've got to be adaptable, always learning in a field that's changing so fast.
Yeah.
But let's be real, this is still a business, so can you actually make a good living doing this?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Uh-huh. It is.
And honestly, like most businesses, it all boils down to a few things.
Come on, you can't leave us hanging. What are those few things?
Well, for starters, what are your startup costs looking like?
Right.
We talked about the fancy software, maybe hiring investigators. And don't forget those legal fees. You have to be squeaky clean from day one, legally speaking. And then there's marketing.
Yeah, got to get the word out.
How are you going to reach your ideal clients? And how are you going to convince them that you're the best choice? Then there's pricing. Are you competitive, but also making sure you're turning a profit? Lots to think about.
The article mentions startup costs could be anywhere from a few $1,000s to over $100,000.
Yeah, that's a huge range.
That's a huge GE range. Honestly, it's a little overwhelming. Where do you even begin to get your head around all of that?
I get it. It can feel like a lot, especially at the very beginning. That's why that rock-solid business plan is so essential.
Right. The good old business plan.
It's not enough to just be a fantastic investigator. You got to be a smart business person, too.
So you almost need to be a detective to run a detective business.
Right. There's some irony there. But seriously, like any successful business, it comes down to planning, careful execution, and, of course, loving what you do. Speaking of loving what you do, let's talk about the cool stuff coming down the line. The article mentioned AI and blockchain.
Ooh, yeah. I was wondering about that.
Are those just buzzwords, or are they really the future of background checks?
It sounds so futuristic, almost like we're stepping into, like, an episode of Black Mirror, but for background checks.
Black Mirror might be a little extreme, at least for now. But you're right, those aren't just buzzwords, AI and blockchain, I mean. They have the potential to really shake things up in the background check world.
Okay, so break it down for us. What's AI bringing to the table that's so revolutionary?
Well, think about it. Background checks, it's all about digging through mountains of information, right?
Yeah, tons of data.
And that's where AI shines. We're already seeing tools powered by AI that can go through data way faster and more efficiently than any human team ever could. Imagine scanning social media, public records, those massive online databases, all in a fraction of the time it takes manually.
So it's like having a super-powered research assistant who never sleeps.
Exactly.
But does that mean human investigators are, like, obsolete, out of a job?
Not so fast.
Huh?
AI can handle the heavy lifting, the data crunching, but you still need a human touch for those judgment calls. Think of it this way. An algorithm might flag a social media post as, let's say, concerning.
Right? Could be anything.
But you need a human investigator to look at that and say, okay, what's the context here? Is this source even credible? Is this flag really a red flag? AI can't do that.
Makes sense. So it's all about finding the right balance. Let AI streamline things, but keep humans in the loop for the nuanced stuff.
Exactly. And that's where a skilled investigator really proves their worth. It becomes less about just finding the information and more about understanding it, putting the pieces together, giving clients those aha moments.
Okay, so instead of replacing investigators, AI might actually create more opportunities for them, just different ones.
That's the idea.
Now, what about blockchain? I know it's supposed to be super secure, but how does that fit into background checks?
Imagine a world where background check records, they can't be messed with. They're completely tamper-proof. You can verify them instantly, and only the right people can access them.
Okay, that does sound pretty ideal.
That's the promise of blockchain in this field. Right now, background checks, they often rely on paper trails or these big centralized databases.
Which are kind of asking for trouble, no?
Exactly. They're vulnerable, prone to errors, fraud, even hacking. Blockchain could change all of that.
So no more chasing down information from a million different sources, hoping it all lines up.
You got it.
Yeah.
One secure, unchanging record on the blockchain. It'd be a game changer.
That's wild. So everyone would just instantly trust it. No more questioning if it's accurate.
Well, in theory, yes.
Yeah.
But it's still early days. For blockchain to really take off, everyone needs to be on board, and that takes time, collaboration, the whole 9 yards.
Right, right. Takes time for those big changes to happen.
But the potential is huge. Better security, more transparency, increased efficiency, all of it.
Sounds like we're about to see a major tech upgrade in the background check world. But with all this talk about technology, let's not forget about the human side of things. The article talked about the importance of finding those skilled investigators. So what should we be looking for? What makes a great investigator?
It's more than just being good with tech, that's for sure. You want someone who's naturally curious. They love to dig. They've got to be detail-oriented, able to spot those tiny inconsistencies that others might miss. And of course, they need a knack for piecing together information, connecting the dots, like a puzzle master.
Okay, I like that.
Strong analytical skills are a must, obviously. Plus, a healthy dose of skepticism. Never take anything at face value. And let's not forget communication skills. A good investigator needs to be able to explain their findings clearly, whether it's a conversation or a written report.
So kind of like a mix between Sherlock Holmes and a journalist.
There you go. But seriously, finding those people, that's crucial. They are your business, so take your time, find people who have the skills, and share your company's values, its ethics.
Right, because at the end of the day, it's about trust, isn't it? Clients are giving you sensitive information. They need to know you'll handle it the right way, discreetly, professionally.
100%. Thorough vetting, ongoing training, clear ethical guidelines, it all matters. It's not just about finding the truth, it's about what you do with it.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've covered a lot. The legal stuff, the tech landscape, building the right team. It's a lot to handle.
It is.
But let's say someone's ready to take that leap.
Yeah.
What's the very first step?
First things first, a rock-solid business plan. And I don't mean some scribbles on a napkin.
Oh, it's serious.
This is serious stuff. You need a detailed roadmap. Your goals, who you're targeting, who your competition is, your marketing strategy, and of course, how much you're going to spend, how much you're going to make.
So before you even think about investigating anyone else, you have to investigate your own business idea. Market research, competitor analysis, all that good stuff.
You got it. Don't underestimate the business side of things. So research, research, research. Who are your ideal clients? What are they looking for? What are their pain points? Are you focusing on pre-employment screening for tech companies, or maybe tenant background checks for property managers? The more you know, the better you can tailor your services, your marketing, everything.
And speaking of marketing, how do you reach those clients? Is it mostly word of mouth, referrals, that sort of thing?
Those are definitely valuable, especially in a field built on trust and reputation.
Yeah.
But you can't ignore the online world.
Right. I got to have a website,
Yeah.
social media, all that.
A professional website is a must. Active social media, too. And then there's content marketing, showing off your expertise, what you bring to the table.
So it's about building that brand recognition. We're the experts, we're reliable, we've got your back.
Exactly. And don't forget about networking. Industry events, conferences, joining those professional organizations. It's all about making connections and staying ahead of the game.
It sounds like a successful background check business owner needs to wear a lot of hats.
It's true. You're an investigator, a marketer, a business strategist, all rolled into one. But for those who are passionate about this line of work and willing to put in the work, it can be incredibly rewarding. It's more than just building a business. It's about providing a valuable service that helps people make informed decisions, manage risk, and navigate a world where information is everywhere, but it's not always clear what's reliable.
So for our listeners who are now brimming with ideas, ready to dive headfirst into this world, what's that one piece of advice, that golden nugget of wisdom we can leave them with? What's the key to success in the background check business? It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of it all, being the detective and uncovering secrets. But at the end of the day, you gotta remember, this is serious business. There are legal ramifications, ethical lines you can't cross.
Absolutely. This isn't something you just jump into without doing your homework,
Right. So for our listeners who are now ready to go out there and start their own background check ventures, what's the most important thing to keep in mind? That one piece of advice that will set them up for success?
A rock-solid plan. That's where it all starts.
Okay, so break that down for us. What does that mean? A rock-solid plan.
It means knowing the ins and outs of the legal landscape like the back of your hand. It means knowing your ideal client inside and out, and it means a business strategy that's built to last.
So you need that detective's mindset, not just for the investigations, but for the entire business.
Precisely. Treat this like any other serious business venture. Research the market, analyze the competition, be ready to adapt as the industry changes, and never, ever stop learning. This field is constantly evolving, new technologies, new regulations, new best practices. It never stops.
So to sum it all up for our listeners who are now one step closer to becoming background check experts, it's all about attention to detail, unwavering ethics, and always being hungry for knowledge.
And maybe most importantly, remember, the information you find, it's not just data points. It represents real people, real lives.
Right, impacts real people.
Handle that information with care, with respect. It matters.
That's a powerful note to end on. It's not just about finding the truth, it's about what you do with it. And that's all the time we have for today's deep dive into the world of background checks. We hope you found it insightful, valuable, maybe even a little inspiring.